Hello, hello. Hey, Sadie, Nicole, Bridget. I think there's a couple more hopping in. I gotta pull the questions from a couple gals. They're gonna watch the replay. So I gotta find those. Hello. How are you ladies today?
Good.
Good. All right, let me drop the workbook for you in case you don't have it. Drop a share link and we'll get right to it. Good. Just got back from a sales call. Hell yeah. Good. Doing well. Sorry, off camera. Get the kids all good. No, that's all good. You don't have to be on camera for this. So, what we're gonna do is I will teach for about, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour, something along those lines. I have, quite a bit that I want to share, that I want to discuss. And then for those that registered that weren't able to attend live, I had them submit some questions. So I do have those. So we will get to those too, but those who are live, I do want to get your questions as well. So we'll save about 45 minutes or a half an hour for questions. Or any type of like hot seat coaching or role playing, if you have people that you're actively working in the DMs, or, if you have like email conversations or, sales scripts or anything like that that you want to review, that's what we'll use this time for, or the end of the time for as well. Okay. So half of it teaching, half of it actual implementation as far as the workshop goes. And then with the real-time examples that we're actually going to be using as well, I will send those like templates, those plug and play type of things with the replay after this. So then you'll have your workbook. And I know there's some examples in there as well. So I don't remember what page it's on. One of the pages in there, there's a handful of examples. So we're going to get into even more specific examples where where you're at in your business, so that we can kind of like fine tune them. Cause I know it's hard when you have scripts out there and they're so general or they're so blah. And you purchase these scripts from people and it's like, what are your goals? And it's hard to get people to want to commit or to purchase things from you when they're so blah. And so it's like, how can we improve the quality of our questions, enhance the quality of our questions and our call to actions so that people do want to purchase from us? And so that's how we're going to get people from being crickets to clients, essentially. So that's the whole concept of today. And so I want to personalize and customize that for you on the second half of today's workshop. Okay. So a quick welcome. Those of you who are here, I know that you know me. There are a few names though on the registration that I do not recognize. So those of you who did register that I am not familiar with, I am Sausha. I am the founder of Sales Mama. I have been in sales and marketing for like over 20 years. It's insane to say. Like, it just makes me feel like I don't feel like I look old, but it makes me feel old when I say it. Like I'm old lady balls. But I have been in sales and marketing for a very long time. And I've been in business for myself for about a decade. Prior to that, I was in corporate sales. So I've seen just about every type of sales that you could possibly imagine. I'm a mother of four. I have a ranch and we do all the things here. So, but today we're focusing on sales. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot about myself. You guys are more than welcome to listen to the Sales Mama podcast. I talk all about myself there, but that's a quick intro of who I am and a little bit about myself. So what today's session is going to do for you though today is what we're going to do, is how to specifically start talking to your ideal client in a way that works for you and for them. So some of the things that we're going to talk about are like personalities, better hooks, better call to actions, how to make things more enticing, more eye-catching, less blah, less vanilla, if you will, more spice. We're going to add more spice to your language so that people want to take action. Okay. And we're going to make it so that it fits your style, and have a strategy that fits you, not this like, yes, I have a step-by-step framework. Yes, I have a few steps to success that work for me. And so I want to share my formula, but share my recipe, but I want you to add your own spice to it so that you kind of have your own flavor, your own secret sauce, right? Because I don't really believe that there is a one size fits all for everybody. I do very much believe that people are drawn to specific people because of their energy or because of their personality, right? That's why there's, so many insurance agencies or so many hair salons or so many coaches or so many consultants, and yet everybody can still thrive, right? They can all teach same things, but they teach them differently, right? Or their energy is different, or their personality is different, or they relate differently based on their stories, right? And so I want you to bring more of that out in how you are talking and messaging your ideal clients so that they can, or your prospects essentially, or your leads, so that they can become clients. And I think a lot of times we're scared to have that authentic self part of us come out for fear that we may be judged or fear that we may be sharing too much. And so how do we share our personality, our authentic self, without sharing everything or oversharing, because we don't want to spill out our entire guts. And a lot of us want to keep maybe our family secret. Like, I don't want to blast my kids all over the internet, but I do want people to know that I have a family, right? So it's like, how do you find that balance? Okay. And so those are going to be some of the things that we talk about as well. Okay. And so some of the reasons that sales feel hard right now, it's not always the price, and it's not always your offer. A lot of the times it's that conversation gap between what you offer and the value of how you are presenting what you offer. Okay. And how you are value stacking that. A lot of times what we do is we'll just go right into the pitch, or we'll either try to get them on a call too quickly, or we drag out that conversation. Has anybody experienced this before, where it's like, maybe I'll just try to get them on a call right away. And then the people are like, a ghost. Or it's like, you ask so many questions that they're like, what is the purpose of this conversation? Like, is this going anywhere? So it's like, what is that kind of like balance of how do I get to know this person, but also move the conversation forward in the direction that I want it to go, right? How do I lead the conversation? Okay. Anybody here experience that? If yes, you can just kind of like pop it in the chat, because I'm sure everybody here has had active conversations in the chat or in your DMs. And so those are going to be some of the things that we talk about too, is how to move your conversation forward in the DMs, so that it's not just not doing anything. Okay. So here, let me see here. Which part do I want to do first? Let me share. I'll share a couple of my own personal things, and then I want to do a couple of journal prompts, and then I want to focus on what came up for you in those journal prompts. We're going to do that first. Okay. And I am just teaching this in real time. Okay. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to perfect everything. But I think once you start to know a topic, you can just show up, right? You can just show up. And if you know something inherently, like, it just starts to become something that, like, and you can start to trust yourself. And so things that have happened to me in the past, like, I used to freeze and overthink every single conversation, right? And there's even times right now where, like, I know I should be like following up with people in my DMs right now, but I'm like, and I will do it. But the part of me in my head is like, I got more important things to do. Like, I don't want to do this, but in all reality, those conversations will move the needle forward in your business, and I think social media and the internet has really glorified all forms of automation, right? And yes, you need to have automations in your business, but you also need to put the human experience back in your business. And a perfect example, how many here have had to call like their bank or their phone company or the internet company or any type of service, and it was an automated person on the other line, how did that make you feel? Frustrated. Yeah. I hate that. I hit zero until I get a person. Yeah. Right. Awful. Pushing 000. Exactly. Right. And so bots and automation are great, but if somebody's actually going to invest in your things, don't you think they want to talk to a real person too? And so what's going to set you apart from everybody else that's using bots and automation? Be a human. Be a human. Be a human first, right? Minimize the frustration by being available. And I don't mean available 24/7, right? Because we need to set boundaries. This is where that burnout comes. And we do not want our people pleaser to come out where it's like, I need to be available all the time. No, absolutely not. You set working hours with social media. Social media is a tool. It is your work. It is not, once you start working online, social media is no longer a fun thing. And if it is, you schedule your fun, because social media is now your work. Okay. It is no longer like a sit down and just scroll and do whatever you want, whenever you want, because you will burn out. You will become overwhelmed. You will become all of those things that you do not want to be. Okay. And so I hate to be that person that's like, trust me, I know, but I used to be that person where it's like, hang on, kiddos, let me just finish this one thing. Hang on, everybody hang on, right? Because you were on your phone all the time. And do you want to be that person either? No, right? So your phone, your social media is your work. And so be very intentional that your phone is your work. And I tell my kids that, like, my phone is my work. This is not playtime. My phone is my work, right? And when I'm done with work, the phone goes away, right? So be very intentional with how you are available and how you are responding to people. Okay. But you also want to have those automations in those times that you are not available. But you don't want to be to the point where you are like unreachable to where it's impossible to be able to buy from you, where people just have to continue to push 000000000, and then they're just so frustrated that they don't buy. So how can you make it simple for people to buy from you? So be available. That's where it is so important to have those conversations, right? Have those conversations. Okay. And those are the things that we try to avoid because we're like, I don't want to bother people. How many of you have ever thought that? I think that all the time. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to bother anybody. They got other things to worry about. They don't need to worry about what I'm doing. Yeah, every day. I don't want to bug them. They got so much going on. Yeah. They probably got a million things going on. Like they don't need me bugging them too. Yeah. But in reality, you might have the key to the thing that frees up their time. You might be the person that keeps them from going over the edge, right? And your product or service may not have that big of an impact, but what if it does? I've had people say that to me before, like I just did like a quick check-in with somebody and they're like, Sausha, I don't know if you know this, but like I needed to hear that right at that time. you know like you could be that person that changes somebody's life, right? But because we think that we're being a bother, we get in our own way. Like how bad would you feel if they ended up doing something or purchasing something from somebody else, right? Like I'm not even going to like take it to the extreme, but I'm sure you could think what I'm talking about, like taking something to the extreme, right? But if they ended up just purchasing something from somebody else, right, that was very similar to your product or service, how would that make you feel? Make you feel pretty bad, pretty awful. Yeah, like shit. Be like, damn, I wish I would have just reached out, right? Okay. Now I'm gonna get off my high horse for a second. Okay. And I want you guys to do some reflection, and then we're going to talk about what came up for that. Okay. So first question I want to ask you, and these are also available in your workbook. Okay. But we want to do this in real time because I want to talk about what came up for you and actively work through it. Okay. I know you guys can do this in your own time, but sometimes it's helpful to see what other people have, what comes up for other people and to work through it with other people. It's helpful to see that you're not alone. And it's also to help see things from others' perspectives. Okay. So when someone shows interest in your offer, what's your immediate reaction? Okay. So let's just take a couple minutes and I want you guys to journal on that. And then I'm going to go let my barking dog in my house. I'll be right back. Yeah, I'll give you another moment to kind of finish up your thought. And so, some examples of immediate reaction. I mean, you may be excited and be like, "Oh my God, this is so exciting," right? And like, this is awesome. I can't wait. Or you may panic. You may be like, "Oh my God, what do I say now? What if I mess this up?" And I know some of you start to over explain, like, let me tell you everything in 5 bajillion paragraphs so that you can't change your mind, right? Like you put everything in there and it just completely overwhelms them. Or sometimes some of you just go to over explaining and then immediately discounting yourselves, right? Others, can sometimes go to straight to needing to prove themselves or convincing somebody of like why they need this. They rapid fire, like, you need this because of this, right? Other times, some people, I don't think anybody here really has this. This is definitely more of like a masculine thing, but if you've been trained in like traditional sales, they really start to push, and they just do not let up. Like, I had a client recently that was working with another guy, and he would message people 8 to 12 times within 2 hours, like after they submitted like an opt-in, or like a direct message, or after they opted in for like a VSL or something like that. He would have them message them like 8 to 12 times, like if they did not reply. I was like, oh my God, like what would you guys do if somebody, I would be like, block, get out of my DMs. Like, no way would I reply to somebody like that. Other things that could come up are like, you start to feel desperate, especially if you're in a place where, your bank account may be kind of like hovering around zero, or just not like a place that you feel, comfortable or confident in. And so you're almost like begging for the sale, like, oh my God, anything that I can do for this person to say yes. Like, I really, really need this, right? Or you can just be that cool, calm, and confident, like, cool, they're interested. Now I just need to find a way to make them say yes or help them say yes. Like it's in their, the ball's in their court, right? So let's see what kind of came up for you guys. When someone shows interest, I feel like I need to close the sale ASAP. Yeah, because if I don't, then the money will be gone forever. And then I also, that I need to show them how qualified I am and why I can't help them. Yeah, yes. So So for that, I sense some panic that's coming up. I sense a little bit of let's see, like needing to prove like the overqualifying. And then I sense like a little bit of like energetic desperation there. Like it's like, oh my God, I need this now or it's going to be gone forever type of thing. Right. Um, and don't worry, like I was like that in the very beginning. I was like, I felt if I didn't get this sale, that there was never going to be another one. Like it was, oh, like looking back, just all the things that I used to do to like get a sale or make a buck is just wild. Let's see. Heck yes. How can we make this happen? But I get too accommodating to make it happen. Yes. It's almost like you bend over backwards and then like you do all the things to make it happen. And then they end up being like the worst client ever. And then they like don't show up for calls or they're like super needy or they're like the worst people ever, or they miss payments, or they like constantly message you, or they just have no boundaries, or you bend over backwards to make it work and then they still don't commit. You're like, I could do this and this and this and this. And they're like, yes, that sounds great. Let's do it. And then they still ghost you. And you're like, I did all of this for you to still say no. You're like, you motherfucker. Like, yeah. I get excited or I get excited but worried I won't be good enough. Tell me about that. Like you won't be good enough how? Like your offer or yourself or like the deliverability or what? Let's see here. The next one is I felt it in my chest. I think, oh no, they're to tell me how they can't afford it. Then I feel like an asshole. If I don't give them a discount, I feel so desperate. I have so many vet bills. Yeah. So it's like the immediate discounting, right? And like the people pleasing and kind of like that energetic desperation. Yep. Okay. So the deliverability, feel like I need to prove myself. Okay. Yeah. Yep. So it's like, let me list all the reasons why you need this thing right now. And, so it's like almost over explaining too, like, this is all the things that I can do and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, whoa. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. So, so what you could say, right? Instead of that, or instead of all of those things, what I want you to do though is just like take a step back. All right. Like try not to freeze, try not to panic, try not to fumble. Right. Like your job is not to convince them. Like your job is not to convince them, because I will tell you from experience, if you have to convince somebody, if you have to drag them across the finish line, however you bring them into your program or service, product, you will have to continue with that type of energy throughout the service. Okay. So if you drag them in, you will drag them throughout it. Okay. If you convince them to join, you will have to convince them to stay. All right. So whatever you do, the more grounded you can be in your approach, the more you can lead the conversation, the more you can help them get clear on their own decision and put it back on them, the better off you will be. Okay. And I know that can be so hard. I know it can be hard, especially when like we are in a position we want to grow our business, right? But ultimately, the choice is theirs, right? And we do not want the energy of dragging people across the finish line. And so I want you guys to start thinking as leaders versus just salespeople, right? There is a difference. I have been both, and I'm here to tell you the difference. Okay. So a salesperson, everybody here has their own business. Okay. At least from what I can see and from the people who have registered, they have their own business. Okay. A salesperson makes the sale and hands it off. All right. They don't have to worry about the deliverability. They don't have to worry about convincing them to stay. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Right. the rest of the company has people in place for that. They have customer service, they have CEOs, they have management teams, they have HR, they have all of that stuff in place that once somebody onboards, they have people in place to help that person stay, right? So the salesperson, their job is to make the sale and then they hand it off, right? You as a leader, so salespeople, yes, can convince people to purchase something, right? But you as a business owner, you as a CEO, you have to lead the conversation, okay? Because you are responsible for having them go through that process, and you want them to be responsible for their own results. All right. And so there's nobody to send them to. Like, especially if you don't have a team right now, like there's nobody to send them to be like, oh, here, somebody else take care of it. Right. You are directly responsible. Okay. So that type of energy, if you're dragging people in, you're going to have to continue to drag them. And I'm telling you, there's not enough money in the world to be able to continuously drag people all the time. It's so exhausting. So how do you lead the conversation? By asking higher quality questions and putting that back onto them, right? So if somebody reaches out for your product or service, what is a question that you could ask right after that that would be a high quality question that would reflect back on where they are at versus where you are at? Okay. So instead of saying, great, let me tell you about my services, what could be a question that you would ask that would also be inquisitive about your services, but reflect where they're at in their life? If that makes sense. And if that doesn't make sense, just, let me know. An example could be, I'm so happy to share more about my products or services. Can you tell me what, what spoke to you specifically? Or is there something that you're going through that you feel like I could help you benefit from? Right? Like, what inspired you to reach out to me specifically? What about my work are you drawn to? Right? Are you here for education? Are you wanting support in making a specific change? No, we want to be more direct, right? Especially like, like with you, like, are you here for this or are you here for this? Right? Like, what are you here for? And it does not have to be like, I think we have this belief that being direct means that we're an asshole. And that's not true. Like, we can be direct and be kind. We can be direct and polite, right? And so why not be both? Why can't we be direct and kind, right? Like, Sadie, why are you here today? Are you here to learn or are you here just to be a fly on the wall? Like you guys are all here for a reason, Are you it could be, yeah, to learn. Exactly. For me, it could be, are you from the area? Yeah. Like, Nicole, for you, it could be like, are you from the area or are you here just to support because you want to be part of something bigger? Right? Like, are you here for this or are you here for this? Like, you give them options. And I think if you give people, two options, it can be this or that. And that's especially if somebody's like coming to you. Now, if you're reaching out to people, it's a little bit different, right? But if somebody's coming to you, we're still talking about like if somebody's coming to you, right? Give them options, right? So I want you guys to think about options. If somebody were to come to you, either through an opt-in, a funnel, they're following you on social media, they send you a direct email, what's something that you can say to them? Pop it in the chat. Let's work on that right now. We can kind of critique it as we go. So I'm reaching out to you as a potential buyer, and I say, hey, I'm interested. And you would say to me, hey, thank you for the follow. I'd love to hear, are you here for education? Or if you're a mom needing extra support with X? Love it. Do you have a business you're looking for marketing support with, or just researching marketing strategies? Love it. Yeah. And you could even be, more specific, like, you have an ag business, right? Not that you have to be that specific, but you could even like look at their profile and say something like, you have a specific, a specific business. But yeah, I'm happy to hear my artwork resonated with you. Is there a special horse in mind you're thinking of getting commission? So even like for yours, I would say I'm so I'm so happy my artwork resonated with you. Are you here just to, support my, the beautiful artwork, or are you here just to support the beautiful artwork, or is there a special horse in mind that you're thinking of getting commissioned? So it's like, are you here to support and, just to see the beautiful artwork, or are you actually here to get something? That way there's, it's like a this or that type of thing. And then Sadie, what are you most interested in help with social media or automations? So Sadie, for you, I would say, thanks, something along the lines of like, thanks so much for being here, or, thanks for your interest, or something like that, right? I would say, are you most interested in help with social media or automations? I mean, I like where you're going with that. But I also feel like people might follow just to like learn a little bit more. And so it could be, are you um currently looking for help with virtual, like are you currently looking, it's like, are you currently looking for help with a virtual assistant, or are you just learning about like the steps of hiring one or something like that, right? It's like, are you in the stages of learning about hiring one, or are you actively looking for support with hiring one, right? Like something like that. Does that make sense? So I would be even like more specific. Like, are you just in the first stages of learning about hiring a virtual assistant, or are you actively looking for hiring assistant in social media or automations? Like even more specific. And they can be like, oh, I'm just learning about getting started, or, oh no, I'm actually looking for somebody to help me with this. And then it's way more specific. And then if you do start to get a bunch of people that are like, I'm just learning, I'm just learning, I'm just learning, I'm just learning, then you're like, create a freaking $20 guide and be like, here's my guide, here's my guide, here's my, you know what I mean? Then you have a low ticket digital product that you can start sending to people that says like, here's all of my hacks and all of my information that I give to all of my business owners that are just getting started. And then when you're ready to hire somebody, here I am, you know? So something like that, I think could be very, very valuable. Okay. But ultimately, like people buy from confidence and clarity, right? And so we want to come from that, like that grounded, authoritative, direct, confident, kind, certain energy, right? So even if like before you start to message people, if you need to like, take a few deep breaths, like ground into your energy and like ask yourself, like, what would my highest self say right now? Like, what would the most badass, confident version of myself say right now? Right. And try to show up more of that as that person. Okay. And so the next question that I want to ask you is, what stories do you tell yourself about selling in your DMs? Like, what stories come up when you think about reaching out to people or following up with people? Okay. Let's talk about that. I'm saving some of the hacks and info. I've been thinking of making a guide for a small fee. Heck yes. Even if it's like $7, like, yeah, make one on Canva and just like keep adding to it. Even $7, $11, $17, 20, I mean, anything, that way you have something that can start generating some revenue. And, like these low ticket workshops, like I've only held a few of them so far. But I mean, this one, there wasn't a bunch of people that showed up live, but I actually had a lot of interest in this one and the last one. So I've been playing around with them, and the leads are, better quality, you know what I mean? Which is funny because like a lot of the gals here, like I work with, but that showed up live, but I still had a bunch of people who I don't work with that, registered and want to catch the replay because they couldn't be here live. They had, you know, something else going on. But like the people who are invested in it are a lot, you know, more like they put their money where their mouth is type of thing, right? So if you're able to do something that is even like a low ticket investment for people, they're a lot more likely to show up and a lot more likely to take action in those types of things. And not saying that like free ones don't work, because I've done free ones and I've had lots of people show up to my free ones. That's how I build my email list. You know, that's how people get to, you know you. But those leads are not as likely to convert, you know. I feel like my stuff was truly worth it. They would reach out to me. Yeah, maybe. But how many people do you reach out to if you like their stuff? I mean, would you have invested in Sales Mama if we hadn't initiated the conversation? Would you even know that we existed? Yeah. That's just a different philosophy. I mean, you know, I do get people that reach out to me, but I do also reach out to people. Like if there's certain people that I want to work with, I'm very specific about who I want to work with. I will reach out to those people, right? So I think it goes both ways. Like people, yes, can reach out to you about working with you, but you are also able to handpick people that you want to work with, right? So I think it's a two-way street. Just like when you like have a really good friend, right? And you're like, oh, my friend never calls me. They never call me. Well, when's the last time you called your friend? Right? It's two-way street. Like the energy that you put out is the energy you get back. So how much are you putting out there that you like are available for conversations? You know? Like I'm always putting out there, like, I want to talk. I want to talk. I'm open to talk. I'm open to talk, you know? I used to think that I was being annoying, but now I appreciate the follow-ups because there's so many times I'm in the middle of a message and I kids need something or they squirrel brain kicks in and I completely space the original message. Oh yeah. And there's times that people will message me and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna reply to them and I open it and then poof, it's gone. You know, and then like 4 days later, like there's the one gal or the one guy from the archery experience messaged me like 2 weeks ago and is like, hey, can you leave a review? Like, yeah, I can. 2 weeks ago. So I need to leave him a review still, you know. I always think that they have plenty of other people in their DMs and they probably won't even open or see mine. No, they don't. Nobody's in their DMs. Nobody's in their DMs. Everybody says that. I feel pushy and needy for sales and was uncomfortable with cold outreach. I'd rather them come to me off my content. That's what everybody says. Nobody's doing it. Nobody's calling people. Nobody's DMing people. So what are you going to do differently? Everybody's just waiting for people to come to them. That's what everybody's doing. Like, oh, no big deal. They'll come to me. Will they? What are you going to do differently? Right? So you either have to be so loud and so, I don't want to say loud, but so, so incredibly out there that they cannot ignore you, or you have to show up in a different way to where they're going to see you. Like those are your options, right? Or pay a shit ton of money for ads to pop up all the time. So like, what are you going to do differently to be available to people, to have those conversations, right? And they may be like Sadie, where they're like, oh, they have so many people in their DMs. I don't want to bug them, right? How many people do you have in your DMs right now, Kasha?
People messaging me about products or something?
Yeah, how many people do you have in your DMs right now?
Under a handful.
Okay. Sadie, how about you? How many people do you have in your DMs right now?
None, unless they're asking me to follow their other accounts.
Okay. Nicole, how many people do you have in your DMs right now?
2.
Bridget, how about you?
Probably 4 or 5.
Okay. Alicia, how about you?
I have a lot more because I have a setter, so we have like I think 10 to 15 right now.
Mhm. If you didn't have that setter, how many do you feel like you'd have?
Back when I was doing it myself, I maybe would have 3 to 5 on a day.
Yeah. So as of this morning, I had 12. Okay. That's from me also interacting and reaching out, right? But again, it goes both ways. Like if I just waited for people to come to me, I'd have maybe like 2 or 3, you know? And if you guys are okay with 2 or 3, then be okay with 2 or 3. But if you want to have 10 or 15 or 20, interact with people. And it doesn't always have to be like, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Remember, you're building a community. Like it's more than just one sale. You're not in it for quick win, quick win. Think of lifetime value of that client, right? They buy once, they buy again, they buy again, they buy again. I have people that have bought from me 5 years ago that still buy from me, right? Because I have nurtured that conversation. I don't think of this as a quick win. I think of this as like, I'm going to get this person in my community and they're going to be a forever client. So I'm not just in it for like one sale. Like I will nurture that conversation. I want to know this person. Like I want to know this person. Right? I want to solve their problem. And so I think when you come at it that way, instead of like, how is this benefiting me? Start thinking of how is this benefiting them? And it changes the whole game, the whole game. Right? Because you all have knowledge and education that you can share with people. You all can change people's lives. But nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know. Unless you shout it from the rooftops. Until you become so incredibly like just to the point where people can't avoid you. Like you're just everywhere, right? But I don't know if anybody's accounts or ad spend is big enough for that yet. So until it gets to that point, you build the community, you start the conversation, you be the leader, right? Leaders don't hide in the corner and wait. Leaders take charge. And what do you want to be? I don't know about you guys, but I'm no sheep. And I'm not scared to initiate a conversation. And I'm not scared of the word no. I've heard no more times than I care to count, right? But if I know I can solve somebody's problem, I will let, you know what I mean? Like, I will nurture the conversation and let them know. And if they tell me no, like, that's okay. And I've had people tell me no, and then they come back 6 months later, right? And then they pay me $15,000, you know, like, again, I'm not in it for the short game. So when you are reaching out to these people, what's your agenda? Ask yourself that. What stories are you telling yourself when you're actually having these conversations? Pop it in the chat. I want to hear. Or what do you feel now after hearing that, I should say? Okay. Because sales isn't really about talking at people, right? It's not talking at people. It's all about really leading people. Okay. And so the whole framework here is connection, curiosity, clarity, invite. Okay. Connect, curiosity, clarity, invite. And again, you'll get all of this. I'll put it all down. But what we want to do is always connect first. Always connect first. Real connection. Just like if you were to bump into somebody at a coffee shop, just like if you were to bump into somebody at Target or Home Depot or something like that, right? Yeah, telling myself that they're probably going to say no anyway, so what's the point? But that's the whole point, Bridget, is you have an agenda before you even message somebody. Like you're already thinking about selling to them without connection first. You're reaching out with the intent of what's in it for me, not what's in it for them. Change how you're thinking and it will change the whole game. That I need to just take the lead and just reach out when I see something I can help with. Exactly. How can I be of service? How can I help? Right now I'm focused on community and bringing people together so that I have a true community feeling. Yeah, exactly. How can this benefit the community? Indirectly, it will also benefit me and my family, right? I want my clients to feel that the spirit of their horse is there in their home with them, that they get a wave of emotions, memories, and feel good every time they look at the artwork of their beloved animal. Yeah, exactly. But also by coming to your page, even if they can't get that in their home, your page provides that for them, right? So remember that they may not be able to get that right now, but you provide that for them and you have that temporary escape for them, right? And so that is what you are providing for them, is that experience. Like when they come to your page, they are experiencing that now. And some of those people will also want that experience 24/7 in their household. But not everybody's going to be able to have that. A fraction of them will, right? And that's up to you to find those little pieces of gold, those little gold nuggets among your community. But everybody should have that feeling when they come to your page of like, oh my gosh, these horses, this reminds me of my horse. This reminds me of this, right? And so how do we want our people to feel when they come to our page? Do they feel welcome? Do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? Do they feel supported? Or do they immediately feel like they're being targeted or that they're sold to, or, how do you want your people to feel when they walk into your store? Okay. Think of it that way. All right. So we always want to connect with them first. How do we make that real connection? So if you guys were to walk up to somebody at your favorite store and you bumped into them and you started to have a conversation, what would you say to them? And don't say nothing. Pretend it's somebody that you're like totally vibing with, an ideal client. Yeah, what brought you here? What are you redecorating? When are you moving? This is for cold outreach, remember? This is for cold outreach. Warm outreach, we're directly saying like, are you here for this or here for this, right? Because they come to you, they're coming to the counter, right? They're placing an order. But cold outreach, we want to get to know about them, right? It's like, hey, how's it going? Something about, hey, you have kids? How old are they? Yeah. Hey, how's it going? What are you here for? What you got going on? Right? Super casual, super chill. I see you have horses. I see you have kids. Yeah, I noticed you like my artwork. Do you ride? Yeah. Do you have horses? Yeah, anything that you can connect with them about that's not directly related to work, right? Cold outreach, casual connection. If they reach out to you, if there's a direct opt-in, if there's a direct follow, that is direct. They're coming to the counter. They're almost placing an order, right? Are you here for this? Are you here for this? You know, that is different. Cold outreach, you need to build a connection. Okay. They're not there. They don't want to be sold to yet. They don't even know you. You have to build a connection. Okay. So something about them, you know, if you're at a coffee shop, hey, what'd you order? Why'd you order that? You like coconut milk? You know, make it, you know, make it weird, make it fun, make it awkward. Who cares, right? Kids are great at making friends. Go to a playground and watch random kids just play with each other. Okay. Be a kid again. Get that childlike curiosity back out. Right. Like as adults, I think we just overthink connection. It's like, just go play. I love your product. If you ever need some help. Yeah, you could also do something like that. You could also do a direct. I mean, there's people that do cold emails all the time too. Okay. And then curiosity is next. Start asking questions, right? Do not interrogate them. It's not going to be like, tell me this and tell me this and tell me this and tell me this. Like genuine curiosity questions. So what brings you here? Tell me about your life. Tell me about your business, you know? And it doesn't have to be like heavy questions at first. So tell me your deepest, darkest fears. What are your struggles? I think sometimes we get, you know, real into the deep stuff real quick, you know, and it doesn't have to be like super deep, super fast. It can be light and kind of, you know, test the water. It's like you're dipping your toes in, you know, and then kind of testing it out. And if they bite onto that, it's like, okay, now we're diving in, right? But if they're just not really taking the bait, then it's like, maybe we back off, right? That's kind of where you're testing the waters. And I think sometimes we dip our toes and then we keep dipping our toes and we keep dipping our toes and we keep dipping our toes. And we're like, why is nobody taking our bait? It's like, well, take a cue. Not everybody is going to want to like talk to you, right? So some people will take it and then you can go deeper and some people won't and you need to back off type of thing, right? But those types of questions will build that genuine curiosity, and you can ask them questions, they'll start asking you questions, okay? And your questions should naturally start to lead to what it is that you offer, okay? So your questions, while they may be lighter questions at first, should naturally start to lead to what it is that you offer, right? Not saying that like, I run a business and it's this, do you need help with this? But like if I were you, Sadie, and I was talking to somebody that I didn't really know much about them, but I did know that they have a business, right? And I, you know, maybe saw that they had horses, right? I'm like, hey, you know, I love your page. I see that you have horses. Like, how many horses do you have? Right? They tell me how many horses. I'm like, oh, I love that. What kind of horses are they? Right? Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Like, what do you do outside of horses? Like, I see that you have a business. What's your business about? They tell me about their business. I'm like, oh, do you have a team? They say yes or no. I'm like, well, have you ever thought about building a team so you could free up a little bit more time to ride your horses? Boom. Right? Step, step, step. You know, something like that. And then like Bridges will be a little bit harder because she's not directly reaching out to businesses. So most people will have private pages. So for example, if I was doing something like that where somebody had private pages, right? Those who do have public pages, I would do something very similar, right? Hey, I see you have kids. Hey, I see you have animals. Hey, I see you're into homesteading or farming, or, you know, hey, I see you go to specific church, or, you know, something like that, right? And then kind of follow that same process. But if I were unable to message somebody directly, I would go to other birth worker or other pages that I, you know, would have my ideal client. And I would make sure, like large pages that have my ideal client, and I would make sure that I was one of the first people to put a value-based comment on those reels and on those posts so that my comment would get a lot of likes and a lot of comments on it. And my hope would be that they would end up pinning my comment so that more people would see my comment and value my comment and then come and follow my page so that I could then do my direct outreach. That would be my strategy there, right? So I would have 10 or 15 accounts that I would be my value-based accounts that I would provide value for. And I wouldn't do it every day. I would probably do it every, vary up what accounts I do every 3 to 5 days. I mean, I would probably do it once per day, but I would vary the accounts. So it's not like I'm spamming people's accounts, but I would have, my top 10 or 15 accounts that I want to be, visible on or start to, interact with or whatever, and provide, actual valuable, and maybe even do it in Facebook groups and things like that too. Because those pinned comments, like people will get a lot of follows and stuff from those, right? And then I would do my direct from there. But I would also go to other people's pages, very similar to that, spend 15 or 20 minutes a day doing direct outreach from anyone that has also been following those pages, people who have shared a deep story or something like that. Those are also things that I would do. Okay. And then the last part would be an invitation, right? An invite. Hey, I'd love to invite you to a quick call. Do you have time to chat this week? How about tomorrow at this time? Right. And I think a lot of times we'll send a booking link, which is fine. I mean, sometimes you can send a booking link. You can say like, hey, you want me to send you a link to my calendar, or are you free tomorrow at 12 p.m. Right. I think giving them the option of like, hey, are you available at this time or this time can be helpful. But I do think asking permission to send a booking link is also helpful, right? We want to get people in the habit of saying yes to us, because then when it comes time to actually commit to a sale, it makes it that much easier for them to say yes to us, right? Is it all right if I send you a link to my calendar? I'd love to connect with you tomorrow. I'd love to invite you for a phone call. Does that sound okay? And they say yes, right? And if they say no, it's like, okay, fine. You just want to continue a conversation here. We can do some voice messages back and forth, but I'd love to get to know you a little bit more. Okay. But you invite them into the next step. It's not like, I think we should hop on a phone call. It's like, I'd love to hop on a phone call. Like, would you like to chat tomorrow? Like something like that, right? Get them to say yes to you. After you've, built up the curiosity, kind of pre-qualified them, right? And then you can send them a booking link or, a quick chat to where you get to know them even better, like a 15 or 20 minute, and then you can even book a full session, right? So like the cold outreach is obviously a little bit longer of a process. Sometimes you'll really like hit a home run and it'll go very, very quick. I've had a couple of them where they're like that, but otherwise they're not always a super fast one where like when people reach out to you, but they are another channel where you will get leads from. Okay. So this is something that we do on a pretty regular basis. The goal is always like 25 leads per day, 25 cold outreaches per day, based on, like a variety of accounts, obviously business accounts, accounts that would, meet our criteria. And then going and, I don't ever follow other accounts, but I will comment on other ones. I will like images and reels and comment on reels and, direct message people in their stories and, just interact with others. And I do get, followers from that. I do have direct message conversations that happen from that. And there's been a lot of really cool opportunities that happen from that, but it is definitely like a long game thing. It is not, I would not expect short, fast from that. So, but next question for you would be, where do you feel like you're holding yourself back, or where do you feel like you're over explaining things, in your DMs right now? Where do you feel like you're holding yourself back, or even like over explaining, or any of the other ways that we're self-sabotaging that we kind of explained, or talked about earlier? Slack. Price, over explaining, holding back on your abilities. Yeah. What else comes up? Maybe just holding back by not reaching out as much, talking too much. Not instead of staying quiet, letting them explain, not asking the right questions to get to the root of it, oversharing part details when I have someone interested. Yeah. And I think it's just mostly because we get excited, right? Like we're just excited to share things. But I think we also have to remember that sometimes less is more. How many of you have ever been part of a had somebody message you at one point and you were like, yeah, send me over the details. And instead of just being like, yeah, here they are, you know, or like, hey, they ask you a couple questions or whatever, and then send you a link, they send you like 3 paragraphs and you're like, yeah, I'm not reading this. Maybe you do, but I don't. I'm like, yeah, I'm not reading this. That's me anyways. I'm like, if you can't give me a nutshell version, I'm like, just send me the nutshell. That's what I want. Like, I want high level. I need high level, quick, quick, quick. That's my type of stuff. Right. But I think sometimes we just get caught in the, like, I want to share all the things, make sure they know everything. Right. Yeah, if it's more than a paragraph, you'll probably ghost them. Yeah. And I think that's what we do to most people too. It's like, hey, here's all the information. And then, you know, we're trying to provide them all the information, but in reality, it's too much instead of breaking it down, right? Because if we break that down into question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, we can flow the conversation versus just piling it all on. And then they ghost us. Okay. Then they just ghost us. Okay. So let's talk about some objections that you guys are getting in the DMs, okay? Or what's happening in your DMs, and then I'm gonna pull up some of my my DM flows, and we can kind of go through some of those too. But I want to see what kind of objections you guys are getting in the DMs, because objections don't always mean no. Like, they don't always just mean no. I think a lot of times people's just, I know I've said this before, but people's guards are up, right? Their guards are up. Like, no's a lot of times just a knee-jerk reaction, or they just, you know, ghost, or they avoid the conversation, or they're just like, you know, not right now, or now's not the time, or they'll say like, I don't have the money. I mean, I've even people, you know, say like, I don't have the money for like $11 things. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, sure you don't. You know, so I just know that there's deeper things beyond that, right? And so most of the time there is something that needs clarity. There's something underneath of that, and it's our job to figure out what that is. Sometimes people will be honest with us, sometimes they won't. It just depends on how open that person is and how honest they are with themselves too, because sometimes people don't have as much self-awareness as you think they would. Just remember that as well. Okay. And so, you know, somebody says, I need to think about it, you know, out of curiosity, what is the thing that you need to think about specifically? You know, and you don't have to be like that specific, but you can also be that specific. Great. It's really important to think about things. What are the things that you need to think about? What's going to come up for you? What do you need to journal about? Are you going to write a pros and cons list? Like, tell them, you know, ask them how they make their decision-making process. If there's anything that you can help with in that decision-making process, right? I've even done this with people on, you know, phone calls before in the DMs. I'm like, totally cool. Like, think about it as long as you want. I'm just curious, like, what's your decision-making process? Maybe there's something that I can help with, right? Or if it's too expensive, well, let's walk through it, like what's too expensive, because expensive is kind of a relative word, right? Expensive can be what? Like, what does expensive mean to you? Because something could be expensive to me, could not be expensive to the next person. So I think getting clarity around what expensive means. And a lot of times it just means that the value was not relayed in a way that they perceive as value, right? Because I would never spend $3,000 or $5,000 on a purse, but there's people out there that spend $3,000 and $5,000 on a purse all day long and don't think that that's a big deal, right? I mean, we had this conversation, I don't remember when it was, but like makeup, shoes, jeans, cars, horses, all of those things, they're all relative, right? Like there's some people who wouldn't spend more than $25 on makeup, and then there's others that spend $200 and $300 and $500 on makeup. There's people who wouldn't spend more than $10,000, $5,000 on a horse. And there's other people who would spend $100,000 on a horse. It's like, or there's people who spend $1 million on a horse, like what is expensive, right? It's all relative. And so how do we get curious underneath of that without sounding offensive? Like, totally cool. I get it. Like, what's your budget? Maybe there's something that we can work out, right? So acknowledge and ask deeper questions, because again, it's not about us, it's about them. It's always about them. But I think when we are in this position, it's very easy to make it about us. Like me, I need to make a sale. Me, I need to grow a business. Me, I need to think about myself. Yes, great. We do need to like set boundaries and grow our business and do all those things, but we're in the business of helping others. We're in the business of selling products and services that directly or indirectly benefit others, right? And so when we get in our head about these things, it's because I feel like we've lost our vision of like, the point is to help this person. So let's help this person. Does this make sense? And I think if we can stay grounded and rooted in that of like, help, like, I just want to help you. Even if this program isn't for you, let's find something that does fit your budget, or maybe I'll make a recommendation on where to start. Like I've done this a lot. And I think that's why people have come back to me so many times is even if they can't afford a $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 program, I've made book recommendations or podcast recommendations, right? And they've come back and been like, the book that you recommended changed my life. And I just want to like tell you how much I appreciated that. And I'm saving up to work with you. Right. And then they have come back and they've worked with me. Yeah, maybe it took 6 months, right? But they didn't go work with somebody else. And to me, that means something. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I know that may not be how everybody does sales, but that's kind of how I see it, is like lifetime value of this client, right? And lifetime transformation of this client, right? And if I can provide value now, even if that value cost me $0, right? They may surface again and they may be one of my highest paying clients at some point in the future, right? I have this person for her talking, her horse recently passed, got her to send pics and voice messages and how she's worried about having a deep connection with a new horse she just bought, asked for videos to watch on YouTube, mentioned her art, commenting her horse, and then some tips on what's on my call. I can give you more info. She saw it, but she didn't respond yet. Okay, cool. Tomorrow I'll send her a list of links and podcasts to listen to. Yeah, it's just providing value, right? And I think a lot of times when we have that like no strings attached approach, people are more likely to say yes because they don't feel obligated to say yes, right? It's like when you ask your husband to take out the trash. Hey, can you take out the trash? Hey, can you take out the trash? Hey, can you take out the trash? And then it's like the more times you ask, the longer they push off taking out the trash, right? Versus if you just like write it on the board and then they just go do it. You know what I mean? It's like the least amount of pressure you can put on the situation, the more likely they are able to do it, right? 100% agree. I just struggle with the desperation of needing to pay bills. Right. And I get that. And so how can we stay grounded and rooted without that desperation energy? So how can you provide value and also generate that curiosity so they will want more, right? And so when you come at it with like, I need, you're pushing them farther away every single time. It's like, take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash. And they're like, no, I'm not doing that. Right. And so it's like, take a step back, see the big picture, offer some value, and then lean back a little bit. Right. It's like natural horsemanship. When you push, what happens? They run away. Right. Yes, they have to get used to the pressure a little bit, but when you push, a lot of times they bolt, right? But if you can give a little and then draw them in, push a little, draw them in. Think of it that way, right? I just had a sales call with a gal, something similar months ago with a recommendation, and she is dedicated to working with me and looking at my programs now. Exactly, right? And that's where like that nurturing that relationship and keeping like those follow-ups, even if it's like once a month, right? Just those check-ins, like, hey, I've been thinking about you. Hey, how are things going? Right. And that's why it's important to have those CRMs that also have those tasks and things like that set up so you don't forget, but you can also do it on your Google Calendar, you know, where it's like, hey, I had this call and I don't want to forget to check in with this person. Create yourself a Google task or have some type of CRM or task management system that will remind you to follow up with these people too. So Bridget, for you, I would get real specific on like how much money you need. May is coming up. So like how much money you need, bare minimum, like bare minimum to survive type of thing for May, and then reverse engineer like how many ebooks you need to sell or how many low ticket, how many mid ticket, how many high ticket, and then how much value you can provide within your like allotted time, within your boundaries, how much value you can provide without overextending yourself. And then putting that type of stuff out there and inviting people into your space. Right. And then it's kind of like that bless and release. Like I've done what I've can and I've planted the seeds, like, and they will surface back. Right. But I think at some point, like, I think you're holding on so tightly that at some point you just have to surrender at some point. And I think when you start to have a little bit more of that surrender to it, you letting your guard down will allow people to come into you. Right. But like right now you have like a wall of desperation, it feels like. And it's like people like, it's almost like you're not allowing people to come in. Right. It's like you've built this moat around you and your drawbridge is up. You won't allow people into the castle. But I do feel like if you get very specific and then kind of like, let's reverse engineer, like how many messages you would need to send and how many conversions it would need to be, and you know, and like make it more of a numbers and values game. And then it's like bless and release and, you know, put it out there and let the numbers do their work. Right. Because at some point it is a numbers game. You know, the better you get at sales, the higher your conversions will be, but it is also a numbers game. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do with my Instagram post right now. Value and lead interest. I should bring that to client calls. Yeah. And bringing them in from there and inviting them into conversations from there. Yep. Okay. And that kind of also, you know, stays with the kind of goes into the next part with like your positioning, like how do you stay in that leadership role, and stay in that, like you want to be the authority, right? And yes, like we want to provide value, but value in the sense that like you are the leader and you're not just here as like a Google machine, just like pumping out content, right? It's like, here's the thing, but here's my swing on it. Here's the thing, and here's my opinion. Here's the thing, and here's my experience. Like what makes you unique and different versus somebody just going to ChatGPT or Google, right? Like that's what makes you different. What makes people want to be in your circle, okay? and then selling in your stories. Because it's hard to sell in your not that you can't sell in your posts, like I'm not saying that, but like your posts are to like draw people in and have those curiosity and build that community and make people feel seen and heard and understood and like, yes, she gets me. And then in the stories, it's, in the stories and in the DMs, it's you're selling, right? You're getting people to interact with you. You're getting them to book calls with you. You're getting them to, and if some of them, I'm even selling in the DMs, right? Like I'm have active like voice conversations right now that some of them you don't even need to get on a phone call, like, yeah, I love meeting with people on Zoom, but you don't always have to get people on Zoom. You can sell lower ticket stuff and sometimes even higher ticket stuff in the DMs, right? And so a lot of times you can get those like micro commitments, like, yes, I want your free guide. Yes, I want your low ticket offer. Yes, I want to hop on the next phone call. Yes, I want to hop on your next workshop. And then after they've said yes so many times, it's much easier for them to say yes to a higher ticket thing, right? So it's like, how many times can I get them to say yes to the lower ticket things? And they'll say yes to the higher ticket thing too. Okay. All right. Wow. I know we've kind of like mixed in like the workshop type of stuff, but we have about 10 minutes left and I would love to hear kind of from everybody and what questions, what's come up for you, what questions you have specifically, if there's any specific conversations you want to review. And let me just check on a couple things here, because I do have some more questions that we can go over, but I want to do just like a quick check-in to see where everybody's at and make sure if you guys have anything specific that we can spend the next few minutes with that. So I see Sadie first. If you want to unmute and just kind of share where you're at with things, or if you have any specific ahas or questions.
Definitely some ahas. Like I just need to reach out. So I'm gonna start doing that because there's I'll be scrolling Instagram and like this one specific page that I saw was this lady just posted little snippets and it was like just the corner of a boot. So I was like, well, that's kind of a weird. Did she not mean to post that? So I clicked on her page and the 6 pictures made like the big picture of it. But I was like, that's kind of weird when you're just scrolling and not on her page that you just see this like kind of random picture. And I was like, oh, I could probably help her with that. And then I've been thinking about it ever since and I never reached out. So I'm like, I should definitely do that. But it was just, I don't know, it kind of stuck with me. And so I might go back and find her and just kind of talk to her about, if that's what she, the one single picture doesn't make sense, but all of them together did. So I see what she was going for, but I was like, I feel like we could probably do this a different way. But
Yeah.
so I'll just reach out. But there is one thing that I've kind of gotten a few times is a client will be like, well, I don't want to let go of control of like their business. And so is there a way I could like kind of make them feel more comfortable with like me helping them without feeling like they're letting go of control?
Yeah, I would still, for them, I would say you will still have full control of your business. I'm just here to take over the tasks that you don't want to do. And so we will be in direct communication until you feel that you don't have to talk to me anymore. So, and like for you specifically, you could even do like quick 15-minute check-ins, like a couple times a week or like a weekly, like power hour or whatever. Like things like that. But I would just put like, rest assured, like you will still have full control of your business. And even if it makes you feel better, like the first, posts that I do, or the first X amount of emails that I do, like you can pre-approve everything until you feel cool, calm, and confident. But the reason that I am here is so that you can have more time and energy focusing on the things that you enjoy, and I will do the tasks that you do not enjoy. So think about how much that will mean to you and your family, so they will still maintain control, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to do anything like without permission, right? But that's how I would kind of handle that objection. Like, no, don't worry, like you will still have full control. I'm just here to make your life easier. And so like for the first X amount of posts or days or weeks or whatever, you can pre-approve everything before I hit send or hit, just to make sure that everything looks good, but I'll make sure that everything's taken care of.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love it. Okay, Kasha, I see you next.
I feel pretty good. My aha moment was my initial gut reaction when when someone's interested in your offer. What's the immediate reaction? That was really shocking for me because I like closed my eyes and I sat with it, and the initial was like yay, but like what's behind the yay? And then I sat with it for just a moment, and that was enough to be like, oh my gosh, there's darkness there. There's doubt there. So that was my biggest takeaway.
It's wild. Yeah. And we'll dive into that too. So, but thank you for sharing that. Nicole, I see you next.
It got me thinking that I need to do more cold outreach and more just like connection before asking to partner together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's building connections, connection. Yeah. Bridget, I don't know if you're able to share or not. Are you able to unmute?
Yeah.
Okay. No, you're fine.
So my biggest thing that I already kind of knew is I am in this like somewhat desperate space, and I need to figure out how to get out of that. And so yeah, I think it was just more like this just kind of validated that, has me thinking about things. So
When I'm in like that desperation energy, you're gonna hate that I'm saying this, but like the thing that has worked for me is I go around like, so first this is going to sound silly, but I'll write like in pen or permanent marker or something like that, like grateful or gratitude or something like on my wrist. And weird, and I'd have to put things places like that, but I'll write like every day, like ridiculously long lists of things that I'm grateful for. And I'll just walk around and say like, thank you for everything. Like, you know, thank you for this meal. Thank you for this breath. Thank you. Like, I just try to get into like the biggest state of gratitude that I can, to try to get out of that desperation. And it's hard, especially when you're like, you know, if you're kind of in like a spiral mode, because sometimes I'll get in those spiral modes and I'm like, everything sucks. I hate everybody. Like, not that you're in that space, but like I've been in those spaces before where I'm like, why do I even try? Like everybody sucks, you know? And it's kind of like you just want to burn everything down, you know? And so like I like force myself into and for the first day or two, it feels very forced. It feels very forced. Like I'm like forcing myself to be grateful. I'm like, I like this coffee. I'm like, no, I don't. But by the end of like the second day, like it starts to feel, you know, lighter and, you know, whatnot. I mean, there's other things that you can do too, but that's something that has, you know, helped a little bit. And then reach out to some clients that you have, you know, that you have helped or that you have impacted, and, you know, look back at some testimonials, you know, read and watch some of those, because you have really done a lot of really, really, really cool things for people. So, okay. Alicia.
I think I need to rethink some of my outreach strategy to maybe get them into some free guides or my low ticket offers in the DMs to get those initial yeses and them on my email list, maybe, instead of always trying to get them on that call to the bigger ticket items.
Yeah. It's great to get them on a call, but especially if it's like sent like cold or lukewarm, I try to get them off of social media as fast as I can, like as fast as I can. And try to build that email list. Because then you can kind of nurture them on the back end too, in addition to, plus you can retarget them through ads. So that's another really cool thing that you can do. So, but anyways, I loved this. Thank you ladies for being here. I'll send you the replay and additional resources, here in a bit. You should have them hopefully within the next 24 hours. But if you have any additional questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. And there will be some next steps resources within those documents as well. And I am available for questions, additional questions, till the end of this week. So if you have any like direct message conversations that you would like me to review, screenshot or copy paste and send them over in an email, and I'm happy to review one direct message conversation for you. do. So thank you. And I hope you found this valuable. So, all right, we'll see you guys later. Bye.